Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. The National Assembly session today, is the opposition gearing up for a joint joint protest after the Ramazan, considering the recent power show of the PMLN in Lahore? Is more of that in the works with the PPP? IMF package and the challenges for the government, are they mounting as we speak, or is the government working out the chinks within its deal with the IMF? Let's talk about that. We'll also be talking about Nawaz Sharif's back in jail, Shehbaz Sharif out of Pakistan. What is the impact of this on the PMLN? Is the PMLN now becoming more vocal to circumvent, to prevent any deflection within the party? Is that the reason they want to bring new spirit within the party, considering what's happening with their leadership, or is there something else to it? Let's talk about that. We'll also be talking about the political situation and the impact of the NAB cases on politics as we go on, as the government goes into the 9th, 10th month of its tenure. We'll be talking about all of that. I have with me Javed Siddique Saab, who's a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us today. Shafiq Ahmed Saab, who's a senior analyst. Thank you for being with us today. And we're also joined by Barrister Danish Iftikhar, who is a political analyst. Thank you for being with us today. Javed Saab, like I said, do you think that there's more to the kind of power show, whatever happened with the PMLN, the way that they went to the jail to take their leader there, and the way they tried to, amass their supporters? Do you think there was more to that? The kind of silence that we'd seen after the elections, is that ending finally now because there's no deal, or do you think there's something else behind this?
Obviously, I think PMLN has been trying to have some kind of reconciliation with the government or understanding with the government, with the powers to be. But it seems that after 6, 7, 8 months, they have not been able to achieve anything. The bail that was accepted by the court of law for 6 months, the Supreme Court gave them a kind of a reprieve for 6 months, and he was allowed to go and get treatment, which he didn't, and finally his bail was, his plea was rejected. So what they are sensing now is that there's a hard time ahead for them. And obviously, the PMLN leadership plus their workers are pretty dejected, and they think that their leaders are under great pressure. Shehbaz Sharif has left.
Do you think
for
that
London.
that attempt to placate
Exactly. I think they want
the
to
powers
prove,
that be, or the government,
but they want
succeeded.
to prove to the powers to be that we still matter, we are still relevant, and also they are trying to basically mobilize their supporters. Punjab is the support base of PMLN, and Central Punjab, North Punjab is the base of the PMLN, and they want to keep it alive, and they want to keep it rejuvenated through these activities. So I think it was an option to the PMLN when the bail was rejected and he had to go back to the jail.
And the fact that maybe they were quiet, thinking that, they could perhaps go back, it would help going out of the country, it would help slowing down, the accountability, so to speak. Part of it was that.
I think, but it didn't happen. Generally some analysts were believing that something is going on, something is cooking up, something is happening behind the scene, which didn't happen. So ultimately he had to go back to jail. Shehbaz Sharif is out of Pakistan, he's in London, and he has stepped down.
But they're saying again and again that he intends to return. I mean,
he does, but the arrangements that we have seen, Khwaja Asif as the new opposition leader and Rana Tanveer, PSC chairman, this is an arrangement which is to stay for a long period of time. It doesn't seem to go away, or they are not going to be there for such a brief period of time. So I believe that something is there, and probably one brother, the younger brother, former chief minister, is now in London. Probably there he feels that he is free to talk, to cut a deal with powers to be maybe, or maybe is able to maneuver a comeback to the power and he could get some concession for his brother and for himself.
In the meantime, when all of this activity is going on, do you think it's about, carrot and stick, so to speak, that, on the one hand, they're trying to tell them that, look, we have this much clout, we have this much power, and on the other hand...
and there's no doubt about it, that PMLN's strong base is in Punjab, and they would not lose it, and probably since the 2018 elections, they have been able to keep that power base intact.
Right. Shafiq sir, is it true, do you think, that the deal didn't materialize and that is the result?
Look, I mean, there are speculation, and why there is a speculation, because the Prime Minister Imran Khan himself said there is no NRO. So people were asking, who is asking for NRO? But if the Prime Minister is saying this, it means that there is some backdoor negotiations with the establishment or with the government, and they want that to get out of this problem currently the main leadership of Pakistan Muslim League is facing.
We cannot, and this is that failure of negotiation, a failure, or of an attempt to perhaps soften them, and then, giving up and saying, well, might as well go and do our politics. Do you think it's that?
It seems to be. It seems to be. But, I mean, when there is a general perception. There is a general perception on the basis of some information, but publicly nobody say that PMLN is seeking any NRO, or government is not publicly saying that these PMLN leadership, they came to the government for seeking for NRO or for some reconciliation. But we know that something going on, something behind the curtain. There is some negotiations, and apparently it seems to be that government is not willing government is stick to the previous position. They want that.
What do you think the deal breaker was, if there was, such a deal in the works? What do you think led to this kind of breakdown in the negotiation?
Look, we can speculate.
Right.
I mean, look, what happened in 1999 when Nawaz Sharif and the family left the country, and the leadership openly said, we have not signed any agreement with General Musharraf. And later on, when some documents appeared in the press, then they say, no, it's not it was not a 10 years deal, it was 5-year deal. But actually, PMLN leadership don't talk openly what kind of deal they are asking for. But what we are listening from horse's mouth, you can say, from sources, I mean, they want that the money should, the public exchequer, because there is a corruption allegation against the PMLN leadership, so they want to get the money from them. This is the apparently one demand from the government side, and I think currently it seems to be not working. There are some information like Shahbaz Sharif, the younger brother, he's agreed to this demand to return some of the money. But Nawaz Sharif,
there was a lot of speculation about his visit to London also, that perhaps he's gone to get funds, he's gone to rearrange some funds, or that he's gone to do maybe fine tune the deal, the process. There's a lot of speculation.
Look, Maruk, when there is no official version from the government side or some official spokesperson from the PMLN side, then the rumor mills start working. So we still can say these are the rumor, and it's very strong rumors, and we got some information that Shahbaz Sharif himself agreed to return some of the amount. I don't know how much money they are agreed, but still it's a rumor. And elder brother Nawaz Sharif, he is not agreed, and he want to
stay in jail.
Oh yes, he tried. Look, he tried, but he was not agreed to pay money, to return money. This is the main issue, but still it's not confirmed. It is like source-based information.
Let me go to Danish, and I'll come back to you. Barrister Danish, because it's not really just a question of returning the money, because there's a lot of a lot of admittance involved. If the question of plea bargain does come in, then it's also saying goodbye to his politics, and acknowledging the fact that there was money that had been taken, the corruption and all of that is being said, then the denials won't work.
Well, I think that if there was any scope of a deal, or if the environment could have been more conducive to such a deal of returning money, it had been in the 1999 era, when he was imprisoned, and there were very serious charges against him
but
of
then
hijacking.
They did work out a deal at that
They did
time.
work out, but there was nothing, to say. There was no admission of guilt, so to say. There was no admission, regardless of the fact that many cases were brought against him. There was the, infamous helicopters case, and there were many other corruption cases also brought against him, against Udaibiya paper mills, and so on and so forth. But nothing came out of that. I don't believe that this is an option on the table right now. I do believe, however, there is substance to the fact that Mr. Shehbaz Sharif is outside London, because we know that many important decisions are made out of Pakistan, and be that the movement for the restoration of democracy, the ARD, or the APDM, or even quite recently what happened when Mr. Tahir al-Qadri and Imran Khan, they were doing the dharnas and all that. Even then there was a talk about a London deal and London agreement. So there is speculation about that, and plus also the fact that Mr. Nawaz Sharif and his daughter, both of them, they have been quite quiet for some time, and they haven't been speaking on political issues, and there hasn't been any reason for them not speaking about any other issues. Some people have suggested to me that Shehbaz Sharif has, himself, he has said that you should take this course, stay quiet for some time, and I'm outside here, I will do the needful, and I will, do what is necessary for you to get out of deal or go out to London for treatment or whatever.
But that rally coincided with him being outside the country. So then effectively, that pact of him not speaking seems to have been broken.
Well, he did not speak much. If you go by the record, it was just a brief statement that he gave, and there wasn't anything against the establishment per se. He did talk about outside forces. He did talk about the fact that why he is being imprisoned, and that he talked about his misery, his injustice in his case, and all that. But there was no attack on any particular institution, which is and we saw him talk publicly for the first time in a long while.
And also Mariam Nawaz, her tweeting had stopped completely, apart from, telling the PMLN supporters about his health, that was all, that was all that she was talking about. She was not talking about the politics. She was, not pursuing any sort of, statement of a political nature, but that also seems to have stopped.
Well, that is also what Shehbaz Sharif agreed to. Some well-placed sources are claiming that, he said that.
So now that agreement is no more in place.
No, it is still in place, because the fact of the matter is that the cases against Nawaz Sharif, they haven't ended, and still now, he has another chance to go before the High Court, and he does have that chance is on the table. And plus, Mariam Nawaz also, her conviction has not been set aside, for an indefinite period. The sentence has been suspended, but she can still be, the conviction can still be upheld. So what I'm trying to say is that
so you're saying, but in the meantime, she does start pursuing politics, as in, becoming a part of the opposition actively. She starts criticizing the opposition, a fact that she was very vocally doing, and she's quite, we can all agree, capable of taking on the government and, getting into the politics of it and criticizing them on their policies. Then that kind of denotes that there is no deal, there is no pact, and that failed.
Well, she still hasn't come out in the open, as she was before she was imprisoned.
But a lot of people were saying that they were expecting her to say a lot of things, to speak out against the government, which didn't happen. So maybe you're right there.
Well, the fact of the matter is still that, she isn't incarcerated as yet. She's still out there and she's free. So she wouldn't want to compromise on that and put that on, and even now, without having said anything, without even criticizing the government openly as she had been doing in the past, even now the PTI has taken her case to the Election Commission for her to be removed as Vice President.
Yes.
So she has many hurdles to face in that respect, and I think that a very big note on that would be how she behaves, how she conducts herself with regards to the institutions and with regards to her previous policy statements. If she chooses that course once again, which I don't think she will do in the near future.
You think she will choose to remain quiet?
She will, and I think that right now Shehbaz Sharif and his son Hamza Shehbaz Sharif, they will be more vocal, and they will take the more leadership from the PMLN platform.
But isn't it true that she is the more popular, so to speak, leader out of the second generation of the Sharifs? If one is to, people want to see her out. The supporters of the PMLN want to see her speak rather than Hamza Shehbaz.
Well, the argument can be made in this respect, but then again, I mean, we have the issue of what the forces that ousted her, or
and
the people
and the former Prime Minister seems to have signalled her out as his successor, even during that rally. Isn't that true?
Well, that is true, and the way the people, they were mobilized during the NA 120 campaign, the election campaign, she ran for her mother, Kulsum Nawaz. I mean, that was very massive, the way that she brought people into the streets. And that was despite the fact that a group of PMLN, the group which is called the Shehbaz group, they were not involved in the whole process. Hamza Shehbaz was inactive, and they won the elections in the heartland of PMLN,
right.
and which I think was a big kind of an achievement for her. But now I think that these kind of speculations.
She wouldn't want to risk her own. She wouldn't want to jeopardize her freedom at this point. You're saying.
She wouldn't want to jeopardize the whole narrative that PMLN has brought about, and she wouldn't, if she says something which reflects that she is being more compromising, that would in effect be a negation of the narrative that PMLN has been bringing along for all this period. The narrative that how they were ousted from power, and the institutions that they are up against, and the fights that they have been fighting for this period of time.
I'll come back to you. I want to talk to you more about the legal aspect of this case against her in the Election Commission. But I want to ask Javed Saab his opinion. Javed Saab, do you think that this has merit? I mean, this kind of a case against her holding a position within the party, like a vice president of the PMLN? When there is a whole, like Danish is saying, that there is a whole, it's only her sentence that has been suspended. So what kind, do you think that it's legitimate, this kind of, a case against her? How do you look at it?
Well, I think when Nawaz Sharif was Prime Minister some months back, when he was in power, everybody knew that he is grooming his daughter to be his heir apparent.
Right.
And she was supposed to lead the PMLN, and the way she was conducting herself in the Prime Minister's house, and the way he was dictating terms to the bureaucrats, it was quite obvious that Nawaz Sharif is going to abdicate in favor of his daughter, and that was very clear. And now,
in fact, people still believe that, because they say he's not
and
well,
I
and
think
he doesn't,
Nawaz Sharif, given his age, he is now almost 70-year-old, and as the family claims that he suffers from heart problems and blood pressure and other things, and if he remains out of politics for another couple of years, probably his health may not be very helpful to him to do politics in Pakistan. So obviously, Maryam Nawaz is the obvious choice for him to be launched as PMLN leader. And I think a huge and a massive support is available to Maryam Nawaz in the PMLN camp. She's very dynamic, and also, she has the capability to garner the support of the PMLN workers. But I think for the first time in the last 30 years that they have spent in power corridors in Pakistan, they seem to be in a big fix, because they always maneuvered. They maneuvered back to their positions, or they maneuvered to come back to politics and to power in the last 30, 40 years, because when they were dismissed, Nawaz Sharif's government was dismissed under Article 58 2B twice. And third time, it was the army which took over. October 12, 1999, Musharraf took over, and cases were framed against them, and a very serious charge that he was trying to hijack, or under his command, a plane was being hijacked which was carrying the Chief of Army Staff. It was a very serious charge, but they were able to maneuver a comeback to power. But this time around,
they don't have that kind of support outside the country also, perhaps?
They don't have any. They have tried their level best. They have talked to their friends, and they've contacted them with various countries. They have contacted, but I think they have not been able to do much for this family. So they are in a big fix. And this time around, the charges against them are of corruption and loot and plunder. So they have to prove in a court of law that no, these are baseless charges, that they are neat and clean, their hands are clean, and they have to get a clean sheet.
But what about this position within the party?
I think within the party there are two groups, obviously Shehbaz Sharif and Nawaz Sharif, but to my mind, their survival, the survival of the Sharif family is to remain together. If they split, the whole family is going to suffer.
And that's what we saw with you know, the former Prime Minister and Hamza Shehbaz and Maryam Nawaz in the same car. I think that kind of impression is what they were trying to create.
I think that suits them, and that's very important for them.
And I think maybe they realized this after, you know, I'll come back to you. Okay. I'm going to go to Shafiq Saab. Shafiq Saab, I think maybe they've realized this also because, you know, there was a lot of talk about their fighting within the family, about who will be the successor also, and, you know, a lot of rumors regarding that also. And I think they've realized that they've suffered because of that also. And the only course for them as a family is unity. Otherwise, you know, it will just lead to a PMLN which is fragmented and perhaps will, you know, not stay as a whole one political party. Isn't that true?
That is true. That is true. I mean, sitting together, which was the indication that there is no dispute, but otherwise we know that there are two camps. One is Shehbaz Sharif camp, one is Nawaz Sharif camp. There are some differences, and even the leadership within the PMLN, they know about the differences within the family, and they are trying, I mean, to sort out these differences, because the problem is who will be the next leader after Nawaz Sharif. Like Shehbaz Sharif, he successfully launched Hamza Shehbaz, and he remained a member of the Provincial Assembly on a couple of occasions, and he was, I mean, dealing all the political affairs within the PMLN. So he was a very strong contender, and the way, like you know, when NAB came to his home and tried to arrest him, and the way he got support from the PMLN workers, that support we haven't seen in the case of even Nawaz Sharif. Like yesterday, when he was going back to jail or like Court Lakhpat, even it seems to be that Shehbaz Sharif and the family, or Hamza Shehbaz, they have more support among the masses as compared to Maryam Nawaz or the other camp. So I mean, they are trying their level best, and but as Javed Sahab said earlier, they have the support in the central and north Punjab, and they don't have that much support in other provinces. So they are confined to only central Punjab and somehow in north Punjab. So they're trying their level best to have that support intact, and they are trying to do it. But it seems to be not that much easy, because Hamza Shehbaz is still there, and let's see how he play his role.
But they can't. But even Hamza Shehbaz in isolation, what I'm trying to, you know, my point is that if Hamza Shehbaz acts alone, in the absence of, it is very much Nawaz Sharif's party, you know, no one can deny that.
Of course.
And in his absence, if, you know, Hamza Shehbaz wants to take on a role separate from him, then I don't think that it will have that kind of cohesiveness that is the PMLN wants within the party.
That is true. That is true. That is why they are trying to, the family want to remain intact. They want to show the people that they are united, and they publicly they are, I mean, telling the people that they are one family, and they are running the affairs within the PMLN. But we know that inside PMLN leadership or within the family, there are some dispute. What we have seen, like my colleague Barrister Saab said about the election of Kulsoom Nawaz, we did not see Hamza Shehbaz during the election campaign. And it was like
and that is
talk of the town, that he was unhappy because Maryam wanted to stop Hamza Shehbaz from electioneering, and she did it. So I mean, there are differences within the family, and even the the main leadership within the PMLN, they know about it, but they are showing different face to the ordinary supporters,
because
and
they know they need to for their own political health,
yes,
so to speak. I'm going to go to Danish. Danish, what about legally speaking? I want your legal opinion on the fact that can she hold, can she be the vice president of the political party with this charge against her, this conviction against her? Just the sentence is suspended. Do you think that's legally speaking? What's the legal position?
Just a short comment on what we were discussing earlier.
Please.
I would like to say that two things, they were very important regarding why Shehbaz Sharif, Hamza Shehbaz is now in the Maryam Nawaz's camp, and you know, he appeared in the car which was going towards the jail. One was the parliamentary meeting, you know, which took place. Right. Divisions were seen in that meeting, and also it was said that the narrative of PMLN should be what it was earlier before the elections. Otherwise, the party would not survive.
Narrative was.
That's right. That was a big factor, I think. Secondly, I think that Shehbaz Sharif and Hamza Shehbaz, they thought earlier that if they distance themselves from Nawaz Sharif and Maryam Nawaz, perhaps they would be, there will not be any cases or charges, serious charges against them. That also proved to be false.
So it's either all of them together or no one, which is what seems to be hitting, coming home to them.
Yes. Secondly, the question you raised about the legal side of it, I'm just a student of law, and from my limited understanding, the reason why Nawaz Sharif was not allowed to hold the office of the president was because the president office, you know, anyone who's the president of a party, of a political party, he has a very big say in party matters. And also the fact that he's also heading the, if the party is in the government, then he's also in effect also running the government, so to speak. But if someone is a vice president, and you know, it is not a president or a secretary general who are thought to be more active, then the position slightly is different. You know, the court might not interpret that, you know, if someone is disqualified, he should be barred from holding the office of even a vice president. That is just my limited understanding. We'll see. So
therefore, maybe that is why she has been given the vice presidency and not some other position, which you're saying might lead to a more, might lead to a more of an issue, legally speaking.
Yes, and that will also lead to the fact we were discussing earlier about Hamza Shehbaz and Maryam Nawaz. You know, right now both of them are at par. They've both been given the office of the vice president. So there is no seniority issue, which was previously a contested thing, who should be senior and who should be, you know, more prominent in PMLN. So let's see what the Election Commission decides. The case is before the Election Commission. PTI has taken it to the Election Commission. Let's see how the Election Commission decides over this issue. But I don't think someone who's disqualified should be per se barred from any political office, so to speak. I think that there can be many issues, you know. It is not always dishonesty which leads to someone's, conviction and thereby disqualification. There can be some other issue also. So the court has to define what kind of it differs from fact to fact. And I think that the fact that Nawaz Sharif was barred from holding the office of president would not, also lead to Maryam Nawaz being disqualified from this office.
So it doesn't per se mean that she would.
It will not. It will depend upon how the court interprets. You know, because this is a new area of law that we are entering upon. I mean, the Article 62, 63. You know, they were applied very sparingly. They were introduced by General Ziaul Haq, but they were not used as much as people wanted them to be used.
And now we've seen them being used all the time.
All the time.
So every case is as it's developing, so to speak.
Yes, that's right. And every case will be decided, and this will set the course for the future decisions or the future cases which come before the Election Commission or the Supreme Court. How the interpretation of disqualified and how would that person be limited from exercising his or her role into political matters, into political parties' issues. So let's see what happens in that.
Right. Javed sir, do you think the PPP and the PMLN, maybe now that they have become a little more active, do you think that it is possible that they can unite as a joint opposition maybe after Ramzan? Do you think that there is that kind of, they're getting ready for that kind of an agitation against the government? There has been strong criticism from the PPP also. We've seen the way Bilawal Bhutto has criticized the government, their policies. If that does happen, it could prove to be slightly problematic or for the government.
If we look at the past history of Pakistan's politics, the opposition parties had always joined hands against the government of the day, and finally they launched movements against them to remove them from power.
Right.
And this time around again, the PPP and PMLN are probably trying to choose that course of action. We know that Bilawal Zardari Bhutto met Mian Nawaz Sharif
while he was in
jail,
yes,
and he had some discussion with him, and that was an indication that PPP and PMLN are joining hands against the government.
And then he spoke out for the former Prime Minister also, but that then didn't pan out.
Exactly. So And that will be very ideal for these two parties because they are the largest opposition parties. One has a huge influence in Punjab,
right,
and the other party is quite popular in rural Sindh. So they can create problems for this government, but the problem here is that they don't trust each other much. And before they join hands, before they actually form an alliance against the government, they have to overcome so many problems
within the,
within
within
yes.
the parties.
So they have to iron out these differences which they have before them. That's another issue. And the nature of problems they are facing today, I mean the PMLN and PPP leadership.
But Javed sir, won't they be looking at mutually profitable goals, considering their accountability is, they're both facing accountability,
exactly.
the leadership.
Now they are trying to actually both the PMLN and PPP, they are trying to discredit this process of accountability, and they are saying that it is vendetta which has been leashed against the political opponents. But the NAB and its chairman, they are saying that no, it's not the political game, or it is not a political engineering. Actually, there are serious charges of corruption against the leadership of both parties, PMLN and PPP. And they are filing these references on the basis of merit, and not that they are doing it because they want to victimize the opponents of the political government in power. So, and somehow or the other, PTI has been able to send this message across to the people of Pakistan that these are the people, PMLN and PPP leadership, which plundered the resources of Pakistan. And one of the reasons that Pakistan is in bad shape economically is that these two parties in the last 10 years have done great wrongs, and they have misused the funds, that they have built their own fortunes at the expense of the people of Pakistan.
Right.
So that's there. So
but
this has to
also, that narrative is also closely linked then to the PTI's narrative of change.
Exactly.
And we've seen that, with the government in place now, the government is facing some serious challenges. And those challenges, have also are itself, people are talking about, whether that change is actually coming in or
That's
not.
true.
So
I agree here, because the PTI has not been able to deliver on the promises
of
that
course,
it
it's
had
too
made.
early at this point.
It is, but at the same time, the direction has to be right. A. B, that PTI, the way it is running the government, change in the cabinet, yes, the Prime Minister has the power,
right,
and he can change his cabinet anytime. It is the cabinet works at the pleasure of the Prime Minister, at the discretion of the Prime Minister.
And the goal which the Prime Minister has said should be whether there is deliverance
the serious issue, the most important challenge that PTI government is facing is the economic challenge. And it seems that it looks to be intractable.
Which we all know has stemmed from a corruption.
And
and
mismanagement.
Of so many successive governments, which the PTI has not been part of.
So therefore, I think now, after this budget, the PPP and PMLN both are trying that will provide them a very conducive atmosphere
to bring about a joint agitation.
to launch a joint movement against this government, because people will be up in arms against the government. People will be out on the streets because of the rising oil prices, because of inflation and all these things. So that will provide them a pretext to launch a movement against the government.
Right, let me see. Shafiq Saab is wanting to say something.
Yes, I mean, the people are asking questions, like people are saying team is talking to IMF.
Right.
I mean, there's no government official elected by the people. I mean, Hafiz Sheikh was on the driving seat during the rule of Pakistan People's Party. He was dealing the economic affair during the rule of Nawaz Sharif. So again, he is with the PTI. So I mean, these kind of players, economy is the main issue of this country. And people are, I mean, the poor people are in perpetual poor. They are not, going to the middle class level. And even in the current situation, the middle class are being pushed toward poverty because of the price hike, because of the increase of the oil prices. Look, I mean, I ask a question that what kind of formula Agra has? Because let me tell you, just last month when they were increasing the petrol prices, at that time the crude oil price at international level was between 72 to 75.
Right.
Now currently today rate is fluctuating between 60 to 52. Right. So 15% oil international in the crude market has came down. So when internationally the prices are coming down, you are increasing because you are following the agenda of IMF. So IMF, I mean, people are talking about the increase of per unit electricity price. It will further create inflation. So to arrest inflation, you have, I mean, I'm not economist.
Shafiq, but what the government says is that this narrative that the opposition is picking on is actually stemming from a fear of accountability.
Look,
which they don't want to compromise on, and we've seen that, you know, the deal bit that keeps on coming up and the denials.
My question is very simple. Like, how many people are living below poverty line? How many people are falling below poverty line? They are least interested about what they are talking in the assembly. They are least interested. A person who is driving a rickshaw or taxi or who is selling vegetable, does he want to know about what's going on in the assembly? He is just looking at his pocket and his earning and to support the family.
Right.
He is least bothered about it. So the question is very simple. People are asking about the inflation, the price hike, and it's a genuine question.
So it's giving the opposition an opening to benefit
from. Yes,
from.
This is the only point Jaresa was rightly saying. This is the only agenda. Both the main opposition parties can be united because they will ask question about the deal or what kind of deal they have signed with IMF, and we are expecting that the IMF will probably sign a deal by tomorrow evening. So there are questions because some of the clauses are being published in newspaper that they are going to increase electricity and gas prices gradually, step by step, in the coming 3 years. Beside, I mean, there will be no check on the devaluation of local currency. It's a clear indication there will be more, inflation. And when there's more inflation, there will be less jobs. And when you increase the interest rate, so with the increase of interest rate, the economy slowed down. When there's economy slowdown, there will be lesser job. So government of Pakistan, the PTI government must take care of the economic side. This is the most important thing. And this is the only issue both the opposition
PPP
party
and PMLN will
can
pick
be
up
united. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And they can pick that up and, you know, maybe combat the accountability issue.
Yes, I mean, on the front there will be inflation, but on the back definitely there are cases, very strong cases, genuine cases against the main leadership of Pakistan People's Party.
Is being very principled against, and they are saying that they will not compromise on.
They will not compromise, yes. I mean, NAB is very much independent, and there is clear indication the government is not interfering. So I mean, the opposition parties can create a hue and cry over the issue of inflation, but the main agenda will be the NAB. And NAB is very independent. I mean, there will be no compromise from the government side, and NAB is this time very serious.
Of course, the opposition doesn't agree to that.
And this time, very serious allegation, like they have found all the details about the bank accounts of the main leadership of Pakistan People's Party and the money which laundered or allegedly sent from Pakistan. So they have a strong allegation, a strong case against the Pakistan People's Party leadership. Even a couple of ladies agreed to become approver against Asif Ali Zardari Saab and Faryal Talpur. So we will see. I mean, it's up to the court to decide. But tough time is very ahead for Pakistan People's Party.
Unless they unite, which might happen also. Danish, do you agree?
Well, yes, there are quite a few important questions as were raised earlier regarding the economic conditions. I think that all these questions would have been appropriately handled and answered had the Prime Minister, came to the Assembly and spoken in the National Assembly, which he appeared but he didn't speak. And even the appearance was, after quite a delay of 2 months and 10 days. So, I mean, as he said earlier that, that he will come every Wednesday.
Right.
If he does that, if he even, if he doesn't abide by that promise, maybe come once a month even.
But he has been dealing with a lot.
Yes, he has been, but I mean, the source of his power is the Parliament.
Right.
And it is the fact that whenever we have ignored Parliament, all these kind of issues, all these kind of corruption scandals, all these kind of, mega deals that we talk about, they stem from this fact that we don't bring all the agreements that we are supposed to bring to the parliament. And the IMF issue which is being raised, even that, and that is something which the opposition and specifically the PPP is saying time and again. And Bilawal Bhutto, even he said the earlier day that he said that IMF deal should be brought in the parliament. So if that does happen, I think many questions will be addressed. And also the fact that why these people, the ordinary people, why they are not taking interest in the parliamentary proceedings, which was talked about earlier. This is also because of the fact that our ministers and our, the Prime Minister, and even I'm talking about the opposition also. I'm not just criticizing the government.
But the opposition is busy pandering to their own leadership. They're only concerned about whether their leadership is in jail, whether it's sick, whether it's not sick, whether it's going back to jail or not. And protesting, aligning themselves to that cause. The fact that they are a part of the parliament doesn't seem to matter to them. The fact that they should be adjudicating on important issues doesn't really seem to concern them, unfortunately.
Well, if we talk about the PMLN, I think specifically, I think they're a bit confused. We were talking earlier about the deal, whether the deal will happen or not. They're, one foot is on the deal issue, whether the deal should be secured or not, and the other foot is on the criticizing the government issue. So, sometimes we see an imbalance. Sometimes we see that they are not able to, positively, criticize the government in a manner that it does not sound as if they are, compromising or if they are,
maybe
negotiating a deal.
There's that quiet from their leadership, and then, they decide to be quiet, and then they start to speak. So there is, like you said, there is confusion.
There is a word of caution for the PTI government. My apprehension is that if the PTI government doesn't address the economic issues, which are of primary concern to the general public, people of Pakistan, then this agenda of accountability could get eroded in the sense that, these economic problems can overwhelm everything. We have seen that happening in Venezuela. We have seen that happening in Greece. We have seen that happening in a number of other countries. The basic agenda of accountability and to bring the looted money back to Pakistan is a very important thing. And
which is what helped them come into power.
Exactly. But at the same time, if they get, this thing get out of their hand, I mean, the economic situation, if they are not able to handle it and manage it, the people of Pakistan, they will be very, very angry. They'll be up in arms against the PTI government. And that could actually lead to a kind of anti-government sentiment and anti-government movement in Pakistan. And then this slogan of accountability and everything else can be washed away in that scenario. So I think the PTI government's focus should be now to address the economic issues.
But what then, Javed Sahab, what, they will bring back the same people again? Do you think that will be...
I mean, the team...
And there's all that talk about the presidential form of government that's been rearing
the team building, the Prime Minister, a few days back we were with him, and he said that I don't know who is floating these ideas of presidential system. We are in a parliamentary form of government.
Right.
But the PTI should, intelligently and judiciously deal with these things, the economic issues.
Crisis.
And that will actually give them some kind of relief, and probably they will be able to then pursue the agenda of accountability with singular mind. Otherwise, they will be confused.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us, Javed Siddique Sahab. Always a pleasure. Shafiq Ahmed Sahab, thank you for being with us today. Barrister Danish, always nice to have you on the show. Thank you for your input. As far as our political situation is concerned, whether there is an opposition, a joint opposition or not, the fact remains that as a country we are dealing with very, very serious issues. The economic situation being the first on the list. Accountability not being too far either. So the issues for the government are very, very important, and I think that it needs the kind of support the opposition needs to play its role to rise above its own interests at this time and acknowledge that as a country, the opposition and the government need to work together to make sure that perhaps we are on the right path towards developing as a country. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.